Hi, this is Alan Bauer, your creative systematic theologian. You have heard it said that the temple has to be rebuilt so that the abomination that causes desolation can be set up. That raises two issues: the rebuilding of the temple and what exactly is the abomination that causes desolation. We need to think clearly about this, especially in Advent, so that we can patiently endure and remain faithful at the end. During this video, we will address the rebuilding of the temple issue. The idea that the temple must be rebuilt partially comes from Daniel 9:27, which says, "He will confirm a covenant with many for 1/7. In the middle of the 7, he'll put an end to sacrifice and offering. And at the temple, he'll set up an abomination that causes desolation until the end that is decreed is poured out on him." It's also taken from Daniel 11:31 that says, "His armed forces will rise up to desecrate the temple fortress and will abolish the daily sacrifice. Then they will set up the abomination that causes desolation." If we expect the rebuilding of the temple, it will undermine our patient endurance and faithfulness because it is never going to happen. If all we knew was Daniel 9 and 11, all the talk about a red heifer and rebuilding the temple, that would all make sense. But we use Scripture to interpret Scripture. So we know to look at Hebrews chapter 10, verses 1 through 4, which says the law is only a shadow of the good things that are coming, not the realities themselves. For this reason, it can never, by the same sacrifices repeated endlessly, year after year, make perfect those who draw near to worship. But those sacrifices are an annual reminder of sins. It is impossible for the blood of bulls and goats to take away sins. Then in verse 8, it says, "First he said, sacrifices and offerings, burnt offerings, and sin offerings you did not desire, nor were you pleased with them, though they were offered in accordance with the law." Now, if God says that animal sacrifices cannot take away sin, and that he does not desire, nor is he pleased with sacrifices and offerings, why would the practice that God doesn't desire be reinstituted? A common error is to take Old Testament practices and assume they will be literally fulfilled in the New Covenant in the same way they would have been in the Old Covenant. What was described as sacrifice and offering in the Old Testament is now called worship and financial support in the New Covenant. The Antichrist, who we've already said will be in charge of two parts of Christ's church, puts an end to true worship, not an end to animal sacrifice. The temple actually still exists, where Jewish people gather at the Wailing Wall. You do not need to rebuild the temple to have the abomination that causes desolation built on one wing of the temple. The Wailing Wall is visible, it can be touched, and as part of the temple continues to exist under a mosque. Next time, we will talk about the references in Daniel and Matthew 24 to setting up the abomination that causes desolation. If this is helpful, I hope you'll follow me. I will post this video on my YouTube channel, which is @YouHaveHeardItSaid, all one word. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to comment or post them. This is Alan Bauer, your creative systematic theologian, signing off.